Hi there, everyone. Welcome to The Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. Today is August 5th. One of the things I love to do at the end of spending time in my garden is to make some Tussie Mussies. Tussie Mussies are also called nosegays or posies. They're small flower bouquets, typically given as a gift. And mine are pretty small, with cuttings no longer than 6 inches. I like the charm of these little Tussie Mussies, and they're super fun to drop off by someone's mailbox or simply set down near the register of your favorite barista. They look perfect when placed on top of a book or added to the top of a gift-wrapped package. Irene Deitsch wrote a book called Tussie Mussies a few years ago, and she explained the etymology of the word Tussie Mussie, which I found quite helpful. A tussie is a nosegay, which is a Middle English word for a small group of flowers held together in a little bouquet. Mussie refers to the moss that was moistened and put around the stems of the flowers to keep them from wilting. That's why they're called Tussie Mussies. Here's today's brevities. Today is the anniversary of the death of Jeanne Baret, who died on this day in 1807. Beret was the first woman to have circumnavigated the world as part of the expedition, which was led by Louis Antoine de Bougainville. Beret was able to join the expedition after posing as a valet to the expedition's naturalist, Philibert Commerçon. Before the expedition, Beret had been employed as Commerçon's housekeeper. A few years later, his wife died, and Beret took over the management of the household, in addition to having a personal relationship with him. Commerçon had poor health, and it was likely that he needed Beret to join him because he needed her help. Beret herself was actually quite a botanist in her own right. When the ship stopped in Rio de Janeiro, an old leg injury prevented Commerçon from collecting specimens. Thus, it was Beret who ventured out into the tropics and returned with the lovely tropical vine that would be named in honor of the expedition's commander, Bougainvillea. And it's the birthday of Frederick William Calcut Paxford, who was born on this day in 1898. Paxford was C.S. Lewis's gardener from 1930 until Lewis's death in 1963. And Paxford was the inspiration for Puddleglum, who was described as an inwardly optimistic, outwardly pessimistic, dear, frustrating, shrewd countryman of immense integrity. When Paxford was hired, he spent many years preparing the grounds. He leveled the lawn in front of the house, he set out flowers and a rose arbor, and he helped establish both an orchard and a vegetable garden, and he helped raise rabbits and chickens. Lewis called Paxford our indispensable factotum. A factotum is an employee who does all kinds of tasks. Meanwhile, Paxford always referred to Sinclair Lewis as Mr. Jack. Here are a few of Paxford's memories about being Lewis's gardener. Mr. Jack loved the trees and would not have a tree cut down or lopped. When we had to take some branches to make a rose trellis, we had to get them when he was away for a few days and cover up the cuts with mud so that they would not be seen. And today is the anniversary of the death of Candice Wheeler, who died on this day in 1923. Wheeler is often called the mother of interior design. In addition to design, she loved gardening. Wheeler's garden was known as Wildmere. Wildmere had a wonderful lawn, specimen rhododendrons, laurels, and evergreen trees. In the 1920s, Wildmere was updated by Harold Caparn, who designed the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. Like Martha Stewart, Candice Wheeler was multi-talented. Her publishing credits included a variety of books, from How to Make Rugs to Content in a Garden. Content in a Garden is partly an essay and partly a guide as to what can be grown in a small space. She was ahead of her time. And it was Candice Wheeler who said, "One of the most perfect and unfailing joys of life is planting. It is the creative joy felt by God." In Unearthed Words, today we honor the poetry of Wendell Erdman Barry, an American author whose extraordinary nature poetry grew out of his experiences as a farmer. Barry is responsible for so many wonderful quotes and poems. It was difficult to pick just a few, but here are some of my favorites. Eating is an agricultural act. Better than any argument is to rise at dawn and pick dew-wet red berries in a cup. Today's book recommendation is The Herb Garden Cookbook by Lucinda Hudson. Southern Living's review of this cookbook said, Lucinda Hudson's garden is something of a legend in Austin. An invitation from Lucinda to sample a new dish or special punch in her flamboyant setting is a guaranteed fiesta. If you've ever wondered what to do with all the herbs growing in your garden, Hudson's book will be an inspiration. This book was published back in 2003, but it's a classic. You can get used copies on Amazon using the link provided in today's show notes for under $3. For today's garden chore, now is the time to start pansy seed to add fall color with their adorable little faces. And if you look closely at pansies, you'll see that their petals are heart-shaped and they overlap. Despite their sweet faces, pansies are tough. They'll survive a frost, and they can bounce back from single-digit temperatures, which I think is incredible. And remember, pansies love morning sun the best. They're not thrilled with hot afternoon sun. They're too cool for that. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. On this day in 1998, the province out of Vancouver, British Columbia, shared an article written by Peter Clow that caught my attention. The title was called Hydrangea Fest Yanked by Roots, and it began with the sentence, "It's a blooming shame." Here's what it said. Saturday was supposed to be the inaugural Surrey White Rock Hydrangea Blossom Festival. For organizer Elaine Kramer, it was going to be the realization of a dream. She was a little shocked 2 weeks ago when she sat down to be told by Judy Higginbotham that her permit had been denied. Elaine and her 30 volunteers plan to give away more than 10,000 hydrangea with next year's parade in mind. That's if she can get a permit. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org, and be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. While you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community. The group will pop right up and then request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.